Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and with a change of monarch, obviously discussion has turned towards whether or not the UK should be a republic. Now, I've discussed the pros and cons of this in various videos in the past, in the quite distant past, and recent streams, so I'm not going to discuss that here. What I'm going to actually discuss is the realistic prospect of it, or otherwise, as the case is actually. Not merits or otherwise. That if you want to ask me that, you can also keep asking in the stream if you want. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I've discussed a few aspects of the inevitable protests arriving from the accession of King Charles, most notably from people who don't want a king at all, of course. So is it a national debate worth having? Well, yes, on a fundamental level, all discussions about the way we manage our society should always be welcomed, even if there seems to be a lot of disparity on each side. But would it actually make a difference? The short answer is not at all. I said recently that I can see the UK breaking up in my lifetime. I hope it doesn't happen, or at least Britain. I have said before, it makes practical sense for Ireland to reunify regardless of any other sort of ideological issues, when it's ready. I can see that in my lifetime as well, of a sort. I can see it being protracted and messy. But then partition was protracted, messy, and the cause of never-ending strife. So there's that. I can absolutely see us rejoining the EU as well. In fact, barring personal accidents, I'm certain of it. I think if I live to be the average age, or the average age of death, I'm certain I will live to see us gain our star back. But I can't see the UK becoming a republic in my lifetime. And there are multiple reasons why. The first and foremost is that people aren't up for it. It's the sort of attitude that could change over a long period of time. Absolutely, sure. But polling consistently shows strong support for the monarchy in the UK. Yes, as usual, it's an attitude more strongly held by older people. But even for 18 to 24-year-olds, it's still more in favour of monarchy than republic. It's an absolutely massive level of public support. And this poll was before we knew that the Queen was not long for this world. It was from summer. So it had nothing to do with the embarrassing levels of media attention going on right now. Some people may feel support for Republic is stronger than it is because of confirmation bias. If you've got a certain set of political beliefs, you will inevitably see and hear lots of people being supportive of Republic in your real life as well as social media. So you may get the impression it's a much more mainstream view than it is. This sort of thing often skews people's attitudes towards politics on a whole range of issues. They think that certain ideas are more or less mainstream than they really are. And it's like, oh, so why don't we see it more in the mainstream media? Oh, well, that's the mainstream media. They got their bias. And the thing is, they do have their bias. So it's an easy thing to come to the conclusion of. But there are just things that actually, do you know what, don't really have much of a foothold in the public imagination. So then you would ask, so what would happen if there were an actual debate and a referendum, for example? Let's just say. Because you could argue at the moment people aren't therefore making that argument for Republic, or people aren't hearing the arguments. You go, okay, fine. We could look at the Brexit referendum for a few pointers. A clear majority of the population were in favour of EU membership for years. No one questioned it. And then a well-resourced, dishonest, largely international, and illegal campaign flipped public opinion just enough. On the day of the poll itself, people voted leave. Leading up to it, there was a majority for Remain. Afterwards, a majority for Remain. Just on that day. Just enough. Campaigns can influence people's attitudes. Of course they can. I've said it often enough myself. If campaigns weren't so effective at changing people's minds, politicians wouldn't spend so much money on them, which is why, of course, I look at voting intention polling all the time. But you always have to take it with that little grain of salt that there isn't actually a campaign underway at the moment. When there is, things change. But then you think to yourself, okay, if we had an actual campaign, if we had a real debate, a real campaign, right, attitudes could change. Yeah. Think about who would champion each cause, though. Would the people who funded Brexit campaigns fit the description of people who would back Republic? Would the mainstream media amplify the benefits of Republic and downplay the benefits of constitutional monarchy? No, of course not. In fact, the reverse. The dirty tricks and slick campaigns would all be on the side of monarchy. Let's face facts. Who would champion the case for republic? The same people doing so now. And who are those people? You don't know them because they're crap at publicity. There are some who are not crap at publicity who are in favour of republic, but they've got bigger fish to fry. When you see them talking about things, they tend to use their platforms to advocate for more important reforms. And actually, it could be argued that they have larger platforms because they're advocating for things that more people are interested in. So you would begin this national debate and referendum campaign with a public overwhelmingly in favour of our monarchy, with the mainstream media, the politicians, and if big money cared about it at all, which I don't think they do, those two on the side of monarchy. Not that I'm wanting to disparage Republicans. Like a great many people I respect highly are pro-republic, but they're not going to achieve the massive swing towards their cause against every influential part of the establishment against them. And for many of those who are in favour of republic, it's not even one of their top 5 priorities, which in itself speaks of the fact the current system is hardly the root cause of our problems. Brexit, the Tories, public schools, the media, lack of taught critical thinking in schools are all way bigger problems for us. And right now, Republicans would have an even tougher time. Like in this moment in time, I think some people are trying to escalate the pro-republic campaign, so to speak, because, well, this is the time to do, isn't it? Change a monarchy. Right now is actually the worst possible time. Right now, the monarch, who currently King Charles, is better regarded than our most influential politicians. You try asking a public who already strongly approve of monarchy if they'd like to swap it out for more of the clowns that democracy keeps blighting their lives with. You would be laughed at. The people calling for a republic now, pissing in the wind. They would do better to form sensible arguments and try and generate a discussion rather than thinking, oh, this is the perfect time, we should all get out there. It's very far from the perfect time. What they should do is get involved in like a grassroots movement. That's what you would need to do. Rather than making demands that are absolutely not in line with the wishes of any demographic in the country. Being fair, some people do. There are some groups, but I bet 98% of you haven't heard of them. And such is the level of support and such is the lack of any well-known publicity-savvy pro-republic groups, you can't really see this changing quickly at all. I mean, I can see it changing. Of course I can see it changing. In fact, the people who will do the most to change people's minds are the loudest monarchists. The problem for monarchy is that their most influential supporters are idiots. They use the most ridiculous arguments when they can be bothered to think of one at all. There are a lot of very good arguments for a constitutional monarchy, which is what has me sort of 55-45% in favour of the system. There are things that need changing. But the idiot blowhards don't make these arguments. All they do is ridicule Republicans or worse, attack them. And that's the sort of behaviour that will get tentative supporters questioning it. At some point, they may even question why the supporters of monarchy can't have a dignified debate where they present rational arguments. Not that I think the loudest Republicans do any better, but Republicans are much less well known, so they don't wind as many people up. Also, republics are more common than monarchies in the modern Western world, and people will naturally think that maybe a more modern system will suit us better. In some ways it will. So I can absolutely see change coming. I just think it's going to come incrementally slowly. There's absolutely nothing that I can see that will tip the balance in the next generation. And being honest, I probably don't have much more than that before I get to follow the late Queen and remove myself from Tory influence forever. Finally, as an aside, I couldn't help but say this. I saw some airhead, again, one of these idiots that present themselves as the voice of monarchy. Some bubblehead, right-wing nut job, saying that the outpouring of public affection for the passing Queen and the King coming would be a blow to Scottish nationalists. Isn't it? Why? Nobody suggests that Scottish nationalists can't also be monarchists. In fact, there's been no party politics over the accession at all. Also, the royal family are actually the Scottish royal family. And I don't mean that because they've automatically become the Scottish. No, the English line of kings and queens ended with the first Elizabeth. She died childless. So the Scottish king, James VI, took over the throne of England. It wasn't a hostile takeover. Not like when Elizabeth I's grandfather shoved a Yorkshireman off the throne in the most outrageous act of bad manners the country's ever seen. No. James was asked by the English Parliament, we don't seem to have a king. Would you mind? Can you job share? But the Scottish line of kings and queens is the one that continued and just got itself 2 thrones for the price of 1. So what we have now is an unbroken line of Scottish monarchs. Although it is probably better to say is genuinely a British royal family, because King Charles is a direct descendant of Robert the Bruce, but also Alfred the Great. You know what these royals are like for mixing it up. So it has nothing to do with nationalism or unionism in the slightest. The only debate is between monarchists and republicans who will be represented on both sides of the nationalism debate. But like I said, sadly the people speaking on behalf of monarchy in the popular outlets are all idiots. Intelligent and educated supporters don't get a platform. But for now, it doesn't matter that much. There's no foothold for Republicans to get hold of. There's no support from any section of society. It's not in the interests of the establishment to change things. It's not in the interests of big money, although I'm not really sure they've got a vested interest one way or the other. In fact, we're only really starting to see former colonies question the monarchy. I mean, that's mad. How mad's that? That countries that aren't the UK have our monarch as their monarch. There is no good practical reason for that. It's nonsense. Before the UK even seriously considers the matter for itself, you will see other countries becoming proper republics first. Long before the UK even seriously considers it, Australia will have gone, this is mental. What have we got a queen for? We're a republic. But all that said, there should always be debate on everything about how society is managed. It really doesn't matter what the split is. If there's a debate to have, we should have it. If anyone believes in their views, they should welcome them being challenged. Anyone who avoids having their views challenged is not actually confident in their views. In fact, if we had a culture of encouraging debates like this, it would mean everyone would have a vested interest in not having their side represented by idiots. We could consign some of the otherwise unemployable GB News crew to a job more suited to their talents. If only such jobs existed. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.